back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. 5 political parties, 4 NGOs, and tens of union leaders and public figures have petitioned President Sisi not to approve the 3-year $12 billion loan agreement with the International Monetary Fund, that's the IMF. And they're saying that taking the deal will only make things worse due to the reform policies attached to it. According to the signatories, who named themselves Egypt's national forces, the path the government is taking will land the country in a very critical situation because the plan to solve the economic and social challenges was determined with a narrow-minded mentality. That's what they're saying. And they're also saying that it was in neglect of the current political crisis. Well, this comes just days after Egypt and the IMF reached an agreement on the loan deal, but it is yet to be approved by the IMF Executive Committee as well as the Egyptian Parliament. Well, for more on that, we go live to Cairo, where the Voice of America's Edward Uranian is standing by. Edward, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure, Cynthia.
Now, Edward, the Egypt National Forces, as they choose to call themselves, actually have a solid argument with real examples like Greece and Mexico. And we know we know how that ended when they took IMF loans themselves. But is President Sisi actually listening to them?
Well, I don't think their message has reached a very large audience. It certainly has not been very prominent in the Egyptian media. And you could argue, of course, that the Egyptian media is a bit censored these days, but I was checking Google's news page in Arabic for the Egyptian media, and it really didn't mention much about this, push to reject the deal either. So I don't think it's really getting a lot of play. I don't think it really has much traction, and I think Egypt probably is in such a situation that really it doesn't have a lot of choices. So raising this issue at this point is pretty much an academic exercise.
Well, definitely, Edward. We know that this particular topic hasn't got a lot of buzz, but it's important nonetheless. Now, if the government is being urged to refrain from taking the IMF deal, what are the other options on the table, at least based on what we've heard from the Egyptian committee, as they tend to call themselves here, or Egyptian forces?
Well, I think that there's a little bit of political posturing here because it's very easy to say that the president is responsible for all the economic woes in the country and then set yourselves up for trying to win another election. I mean, the problems that face Egypt were here before President Sisi took office, before the Muslim Brotherhood president, Mr. Morsi, took office. So really, anyone who solves them is going to be a savior for Egypt, and criticizing the leader is very easy. That being said, at this point, the economic situation is kind of critical, so there really aren't a lot of options other than to take this deal, and it's a bit of a stopgap because I think it's anticipating that the situation will get better on the tourism front, which is the real issue here, which is what's really wrecking the Egyptian economy.
But Edward, has it been made public, the reform plans that actually come with this deal? Because that seems to be the issue that has triggered the signing of the petition to begin with. What are the reforms attached to the deal?
Well, yes, I don't think the Egyptian public is entirely aware of all the reforms, but basically, in a nutshell, the main issue is creating a value-added tax, which Egypt does not currently have, improving collection of taxes, getting rid of some of the bloated public sector. President Sisi has indicated he doesn't want to hire any more people, but he hasn't actually said he was planning to fire any. And to lift subsidies on a number of items like fuel and electricity. That would create a popular backlash. So I can see why a government or political parties would suggest not to take the deal.
But we're still speculating here, Edward, because this deal or this loan deal is subject to approval by the IMF Executive Committee. So is there any word as regards the approval?
Well, no. I mean, the Executive Committee is in Washington, and to some extent, they're beholden to a number of foreign governments, and there are a lot of pressures in terms of what those particular governments support in Egypt. And some of them, like the United States, would like to see the Muslim Brotherhood back in the government, at least participating.
Yeah. And
I think that's a no-go, a non-starter here in Egypt. So if that's part of the argument, I mean, clearly there will be trouble in terms of clinching the deal.
Yes. Well, the Voice of America's Edward Iranian, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks.
Now, a move by the Nigerian government to offer a concessionary dollar exchange rate for Hajj pilgrims has caused controversy in the country. According to critics, the government's priority should be to boost the country's contracting economy.
Nigeria made a decision to offer a preferential rate of 197 naira to the dollar months after the currency was devalued and a more flexible currency regime announced in June. Many Muslims say they were pleased the government was sticking to its decision.
It's very, very good. We like it. Muslims will enjoy it. It's very good that government make concern about those who are going to Hajj until helping them with some money or make the dollar available for those who are going to Hajj. It's very good.
However, some said that for those who couldn't afford it, there was no obligation to go to Mecca.
The person of Hajj is a personal decision. It's one of the pillars of Islam. So those who can afford it are enjoying to go, right? So if you cannot afford it, then it's not compulsory that you must go. So that's about that. But again, compared to last year, I think because of the dollar exchange rate and all of that, I think the ability of people to go willingly from their own personal resources will be impacted negatively.
Although the exchange rate is being subsidized, the basic travel allowance, which enables Nigerians to buy a specified sum of foreign currency at the official rate, has also been reduced from $4,000 to $1,000. Travel agents say the change has had a negative impact on the number of people traveling to Saudi Arabia this year.
For last year, we have more travelers, and then we still have the BTA up to the basic travel allowance of $4,000. But now with the rules that have been set down, which it has not really been implemented, you're having less travelers, and then you're having the BTA reduced to $1,000 US, which is not so good.
The naira hit an all-time low of 350.91 to the dollar on Friday, and the currency hit 400 against the dollar at the parallel market last week, weakened partly by dollar demand from individuals traveling abroad for their summer holidays.
It is said that the commitment was made in March, but to the best of my knowledge, the personal travel allowance is only available in the quarter in question. So if the commitment was made in March, that was only available in the first quarter of this year. You cannot use a pricing policy for the first quarter and apply it in the third quarter of the year. As far as I'm concerned, that is not a tenable argument at all.
All Muslims who are able are required to perform the Hajj pilgrim at least once as one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Numbers taking part have risen sharply over the last 80 years, from around 20,000 in 1932 to nearly 3 million in 2011.
The moment we bring you updates on the Rio 2016 Olympics. Stay with us.